Hello, my name's Jasper, you're watching Buckle Up, and this is a 2 Series BMW. And today I'm going to try and find out if you should get one of these instead of a family hatchback if you are a car enthusiast. This era of 2 Series is based on the same platform as the BMW 1 Series, and you can see the resemblance due to that. However, there are more sporty design touches befitting a coupe. The front of the car is ever so slightly reminiscent of the BMW shark nose design, as the top section here at the front is angled ever so slightly over the lower sections of the grille, and also the kidney grills are wider at the top and taper down towards the center. The whole styling kind of focuses your attention in towards the center of the car. You've got flatter sections out here, and even though this is the SE trim level, it's still quite a sporty design. So you've got extra bits of grille work and tapering headlamps. It's incredibly well integrated, especially considering it's essentially just a bit of a facelift of a 1 Series. Onto the side of the 2 Series, which is relatively bland, and so I shall summarise it in a series of short statements. 17-inch alloy wheels, quite a nice crease, massive fuel filler flap, frameless doors, swoopy roofline, boring side skirt, and relatively nice proportions. Onto the rear of the 2 Series, where in SE trim this is actually even more bland than the side of the car because there's absolutely no diffuser, and because this is the 218i we only have a single exhaust tip. Parking sensors are just about the only feature back here, to be honest, and a shark fin antenna, but BMW's have been doing that for years. The light design is very clean, it's a good piece of design, and you've got BMW embossed in the reflectors at the side. Because this is the coupe, you have a traditional saloon style boot, which in this instance is 390 litres in capacity, which for the size of car is very good. Inside the boot you have almost got no features. You've got levers to drop the rear seats and 2 small cubby holes at either side. Under the boot floor you've got a battery for better weight distribution and space for a little set of tools and a tyre repair kit, but all BMWs tend to come with run flats, so not as necessary. No space for a spare wheel, but yeah, don't really need one. Should we have a look inside? The back seat of the 2 Series coupe is actually surprisingly spacious, he says, with his head touching the ceiling. Now, I'm 5'7.5", and if I sit up straight, my head does actually make contact with the roof line here. However, if I slouch down a little bit, I've got some headroom. So if you regularly need to carry more than 1 adult passenger, you may struggle with regards to headroom. Widthways, I'm absolutely fine. I'm really comfortable actually, because you cannot carry a passenger in the middle here. You've got a lovely bit of plastic that you can throw a phone in or something. The space widthways though, BMWs routinely get right. They curve up the side of the seats so you can kind of slouch into the corner, and there's always a really good elbow rest placed in the right position. Feature wise, there is next to naff all back here because this is quite a low spec car. There isn't even a rear climate vent in this central control stack, which I'm pretty sure you would get in a higher spec car. You may also even get a charging point, not sure about that though. Leg space wise, I'm okay because I'm currently sitting behind my own seating position, so I've got more than enough legroom. However, if you were sitting behind someone a little bit taller than me, you may suddenly find your knees are making the most of the recesses in the back of this seat to enable you to have just a little bit of room. Definitely not the kind of car you want to regularly carry 3 passengers who are all quite large in. You do have ISOFIX points on both seats back here, although with this being a 2-door coupe model, if you're regularly getting child seats in and out or children in and out of those seats, you might find it to be a little bit frustrating. Let's move up front where there will hopefully be a bit more space. Up here in the front of the 2 Series, the materials are generally pretty good. The fit and finish is definitely very good. Everything is really well screwed together and really well mounted, and there's some lovely fabric on the centre of the door cards. If this were a higher spec model, you'd have some more leather about the cabin, but as it is, this is a squidgy soft touch plastic, and on the whole, it's good enough. The climate controls are more manual than the ones you could get in a higher spec car. Stereo controls are pretty standard BMW for the era. The layout of the dash is very, very standard, and you've got iDrive controls down here where your hand rests nicely on this centre armrest, which is very good, and also slides forwards if you're short like me. You've got a manual gearbox in this model, 6-speed manual, and I must say the throws of this are very nice. It really does notch into gear very, very nicely. And the whole interior really is well laid out. BMW are good at putting everything you need as a driver within easy reach of your arms. You've got stereo mounted controls for your audio and a speed limiter. Cruise control was an optional extra that a lot of these 2 Series cars don't seem to have ticked. You've got a start-stop button for the engine, and you've got a number of blank switches around the climate controls, and yeah, there are certain elements that are missing from this as a lower spec model. Practicality wise, you've got a really good sized glove box that is nicely felt lined as well. The door bins are actually very good. You've got a kind of cubby specifically for a water bottle, as well as some separate cubbies for other items down here. You've got twin cup holders in the center, as well as a small kind of ledge down here. And then underneath this armrest, you've got another decent-ish space there to store things too. There's nothing in the dashboard for kind of fast passes for tolls or anything, but generally you've got enough space to store the kind of things you would expect to be able to just dump in cup holders or a storage bin. I'd say the amount of storage you have in here is comparable to a family hatchback. Obviously you lose the added practicality of rear doors and the ability to have storage bins back there, but you do have a really good array of storage in the door cards here up front. Of course, the real reason you buy a car like this, a Sporty Coupe, is to drive it. So let's go and do that. And of course, before we set off, don't forget to buckle up. Oh, hear the 3 cylinders. Driving the BMW 218i. This is the base spec engine that you were able to get in the 2 Series Coupe, and it's also the base spec you were able to get the 2 Series Coupe in, because this is the 218i SE. Now that's not to say it's a base spec driving experience by any stretch, because it's actually pokey enough. You've got very nice steering. It's weighted beautifully. It's just heavy enough that you really kind of feel like you're having to do something in order to actually turn in. And then the throttle response is pretty good. The engine is acceptable. It's not quite as pokey as you would hope for a BMW, but it's got just enough to make it a little bit engaging to drive every day. And in a world where petrol costs nearly £2 a litre, something that's economical but has a little bit of fun included isn't a bad thing. So yes, this driving experience is very much not base spec. You've got an excellent level of refinement, even though the engine itself might be a little bit unrefined at idle. Once you're on the move and you're above that second harmonic, it's actually perfectly refined. You don't get much noise or vibration coming through to the cabin, and the car actually feels very competent and planted at motorway speeds. The real kind of selling point of the 2 Series is the chassis, because it really is one of the best chassis BMW has made for a while. From an engagement perspective, this car does have just about everything you'd need. You've got a really good chassis that's very competent and capable of handling power and speed, and you've got a very nice manual gearbox, as well as an engine that just gives you a little bit of fun. Because BMW's naming strategy for engines stopped making sense a while ago, this, as the 218i, has a 3-cylinder 1.5 litre petrol engine with direct injection and it says twin power turbo on it, but I'm pretty sure that means a twin scroll turbocharger as opposed to 2 turbochargers. I will check. But what that means, what that gives you, is about 134 brake horsepower, which is not a tremendous amount, especially for a kind of sporty coupe, but it's actually just enough that it feels a little bit special to drive. You know, they could have put a 3-cylinder 1 litre in this and, you know, called it a day with about 100 horsepower, but they didn't. They gave you that extra half a litre displacement and an extra bit of power. 134 brake horsepower is actually not too bad a figure, and it certainly doesn't feel like you're lacking per se when you're driving this car. However, it does sometimes leave you wanting just a little hint more. Other things I like about the driving experience are the steering feel, and you get a good amount of feedback through to your hands, coupled with the excellent clutch and manual gearbox really do mean that driving this is quite fun. So even though you've not got the most amount of power in the world, you've actually got quite an engaging and enjoyable driving experience. So there we have the BMW 218i with its thrummy little 3-cylinder petrol engine. It's got just enough power and driver engagement to make it interesting for the petrol head. I'd argue that with this 2-door form factor and spacious boot as well, it's got enough practicality to make it suitable as a daily driver. Couple that with decent fuel economy and a premium ownership experience, and yeah, I'd recommend it. If you're on a bit of a tighter budget, not a tight budget, but if you're on a tighter budget, might be worth a look. Would I take the 2 Series Coupe over a family hatchback such as the Mercedes A-Class? Yes, every day of the week. This is a far more engaging drive, and it doesn't have a crummy little French engine. That concludes this video, so thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, let us know what you think of this video, and please check out our social medias, which are linked in the description below. You can also, while you're there, become a channel member or consider joining us and becoming a patron, or if you'd like to support us and get something more tangible back in return, you can check out our spread shop where you can get some lovely merchandise such as this buckle up t-shirt. Thank you very much for watching. Bye. Or if you'd like to support us and get some free